truck hit, and as I fell, my arm went above the back truck wheel inside, crushed the hand completely. Somehow I managed to pull out with like this. But as I've pulled out, it had taken all of the skin and fat, and I mean everything. It was down to the bone. It was hanging on just by this little part here. But I said to him, I love you, and tell my family I love them. At that point, I thought, okay, I'm dead. And I think that's when I lost consciousness, and when they started to prepare me for surgery. But they say to him, the chances are she's not going to make it, and if she does, then we're going to have to just take the arm. Things that were sent to break me, and I keep pushing through. My whole life, I felt ugly. I hated being on camera. I hated being on video unless I was getting the right angle like most women do. I pretended that I agreed with people when they would call me beautiful. Honestly, I just went back to Nirvana one day. It was actually such a beautiful moment because no one even noticed, because they're looking at me now through my eyes. They're complimenting on my energy, my mindset, and how I'm smiling after all of this trauma that would just kill someone so easily. Trauma so deep that they don't even know where to start, and they're so scared of even vocalizing it because, oh, if I vocalize I've got trauma again, I'm not going to be accepted.
Something so powerful as well, where when you embraced it and you showed your scars. Taking this moment to give some gratitude to you, the listener, to investing your time and energy into your transformation, taking your life from where you are now to where you're moving to. We've got an exciting venture that we're going on with this movement of the Transformation Code. And one thing that you could do to really support this movement is to leave a review and also to subscribe. It will allow us to have access to more guests who can share their codes and their value, and then we can share that with you as the listener. So if you could just take this moment to leave a review and also to subscribe, that will really help the growth of this movement and this channel. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the episode. So yeah, I feel really grateful. Like, thank you so much for coming on. And it's crazy because just under a year ago, we were at Nirvana, having a conversation and chatting, and that's where we met. And then we then circled back basically like 10 months, 11 months later. And then we catch up and I hear about, your experience and everything that you've been through in the last, since we last caught up. And the thing that's inspired me so much is how, and this is what I'd love to unravel today, is how you've gone through that experience, which we can, get into. Like, one of the most traumatic things I can imagine someone could, go through, having that arm that's trapped in a lorry's wheel. It's like, what? Yet you're still here doing the podcast. So what's been your experience the last sort of 10 months since we last caught up?
I think what was interesting when we caught up in Nirvana, you hadn't heard about the accident, right?
No.
And just in short, I'm like, hey Sam, I was hit by a truck, 7 months ago, and I'm back in Bali. And for me, it's become so normal already to tell the story that I've told it so many times that I almost forget it happened, which in itself is a testament to the transformation that I've been through, because I know that with an injury as serious as this is the sort of injury you would see in the army, because of the horror show that played out. It's like a testament to my growth. But there are times where I talk about the story and I have this moment of, oh yeah, I did go through that. But before the accident, when we caught up, not long after that, I fell into my first toxic relationship. I had never been in a toxic, abusive relationship. So the accident and the trauma didn't just happen when the truck hit me. My life had started to, let's say, get dark, really dark. And you've seen me around Nirvana. I was, all love and light, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I met someone and I was in survival mode, but I didn't really tell many people, especially around Nirvana. And I've moved to Bali. I've packed all of my stuff. I've left my hometown. I've left my family, people that I love. Put all my dreams into a suitcase. I get to Bali. I'm living my dream life. I meet this toxic person, and I was just in such a bad place. My nervous system was completely ruined. My hair was falling out. And a week before the accident, I said to God, okay, I don't have the strength to leave this relationship. I've never experienced this sort of a emotional abuse. Please help me. And what's really interesting is the week of the accident, we had the best week ever. And it's almost like God was like, no, Charlene, you've got more to give to this world. And if I stayed in that relationship, my soul would have died. So, anyway, we decide to try and make things work. We go on a trip to climb the volcano, Mount Agung, which is the highest one in Bali. The first time I tried to climb this mountain, by the way, I got dengue fever.
Mm.
Second time, I'm hit by a truck. And so the third time I'm going to get up there this year in July. I'm getting
Yeah.
up to the
Yeah. Yeah.
top.
Let's go. Love
Yeah.
that.
So we go on this trip, we stay in this beautiful tree house, Bali life, everything that I've dreamed of, even though I'm in this really, really bad relationship. Um,
How long was the relationship at this point?
at this point, I met him in March last year, but it got serious really quickly in April, so like a year from now.
Right. Right.
I met him in Yepe last year, but it was the 9th of March, so it was like a different date. And so very quick, he was my neighbor. Like he literally lived on my doorstep, so I seen him every day. And then the accident happened in July. I was on the bike. I had all of my camping stuff on the back, which was really heavy. So I was on my own bike. My ex-partner was on his bike. I had just rescued this baby kitten, and that day I didn't feel safe. It's like I knew it was happening. I
Mm.
stopped the bike. I gave him the kitten. I said, I don't feel safe. I come round the corner, and where the accident happened is a very small remote town, 2 hours from where we live. So no traffic, just me and the truck, which again, for me, when I look back, it was supposed to happen. So I can see the truck, and I slow down because it got a little too close to me. But I've been taught to drive by them, so something stopped me. I could have got by the truck.
Mm.
Something stopped me. I slowed down. But because I was on a hill, my feet didn't touch the ground enough to stabilize myself. And the bike wobbled, the truck hit, and as I fell, my arm went above the back truck wheel inside, crushed the hand completely. Somehow I managed to pull out with like this.
Mm.
But as I've pulled out, it had taken all of the skin and fat, and I mean everything. It was down to the bone.
Oh.
It was hanging on just by this little part here. So if you can imagine, all of this was like a weighted curtain, right, of just skin. I lift up my arm, and through the bones, I see people already gathering, filming me, like maybe 100 people. My fingers are all off underneath the skin.
People
Uh,
helping?
hmm?
People come over to help, or were they more?
Yeah, I mean, so the trucks hit me. I've pulled out. The truck should have taken me all the way downhill,
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it, it's insane to me when I think about it. Uh, I somehow got the camping bag off because my partner was in front. When he seen me, when he turned around, he just completely froze. His face, what could he do?
Shut down. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it felt like it took forever for him to get to me, and he was only in front. By the time he got to me, I had the bag off, and I'm saying to him, get the string, because I knew there was string in the camping bag. But my fingers were off underneath the skin. They were all in the wrong position. So I don't know if we can see here. All of the muscle, tissue, tendons came out, was on the floor. This was all bust open. So I put my fingers back in the right position.
You personally
Yeah,
put them on.
yeah, because they were all, if you see the x ray, they were all twisted, like
Mm.
all in the wrong position. And in these accidents, they say, especially people in the war that they black out, right? Me, it was the complete opposite. It was like every cell in my body was ready to fight. Um, so I've put the fingers back in the same position, the right position. But I mean, all of this was out on the floor. I'm trying to hold the skin and the fat back on. It keeps falling off. I say to my partner, get the string. And I'm trying to tie the string on. He's trying to tie because the artery was completely severed to the point that I lost it. They couldn't save the artery.
Mm.
Now you're supposed to die in what, 3 minutes when an
Yeah.
artery is severed. So there was people helping, there was people on the ground praying, there was children screaming. My screams would haunt you for the rest of your life. It's like I was screaming the town down, if that makes sense. And I was on the side of the road for an hour and a half, 1 hour and a half, because it's a small town. They are not set up for the way an ambulance would be back home. And I could feel all of the pain. I didn't black out at all. At that point, there was no, I'm going to, I mean, I knew I was bleeding out. I knew that I was losing pints and pints of blood. I was so aware. I was so alive because I knew I had to fight to stay alive. Then the ambulance came and they come over with a rag, like a towel and a plank of wood.
Classic Bali.
So my arm's on this towel, on the wood with the rag. I get into the ambulance and the way they looked at me was like, yeah, she's no chance. And I think we were in the ambulance for like 30 minutes to get to the first hospital. We get to the first hospital, I'm screaming in pain. One breath, I'm saying I'm going to die, let me die. The other breath, I'm saying out loud, no, I'm going to survive. We get into the hospital, they take me straight through to the x-ray room. But for me, I'm like, these knuckles were up here. It was
Mm.
complete smithereens. There wasn't a bone in place. I'm in the x-ray room, I'm begging for medication. My partner's begging for them to sedate me, and I'm saying, no, if you sedate me, I'm going to die. I need to fight this. Then they take me back to another room, and I have like 6 doctors around me, and they're just like, no, no medication. They cleaned it. One doctor took a look and almost like he was going to
Mm.
vomit. And they said, we can't help you. And my partner was like, what do you mean? They said, it's too severe. She needs to go to an international hospital.
Mm.
She needs to get accepted first. So I'm lying on the bed. This is all hanging off. My knee is bust open completely. I've got a hole in my foot because of the way I fell. I've got this huge mark on my back from the camping bag, like a burn. So they're trying to clean things up. And they take my partner away, the police, uh, for payment and for um, a report, like a police report. They had to question him to make sure he wasn't involved.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was just so many things going on, and I didn't think this is going to be emotional today, but I'm just lying in the bed. When doctors are looking at you saying you've no chance, it's like, how do you, how I fought through that moment, through the pain, I don't know. Honestly, I felt like something, angels, God, I don't know. Something was holding me. And so I think we got to about the 4-hour mark and they said, okay, Charlene's been accepted. Still no medication. Still in insane
Must be so much
amounts in
pain.
pain. I don't think I'll ever be able to describe for the rest of my life the pain. It was like it was just all through my body. There wasn't a moment where I felt numb, not 1 second. And it's as if every breath that I took was a drop of blood leaving my body. So it's like I was fighting for every drop of blood. They say she's been accepted, so they put me in another ambulance. They say, but it's a Saturday night, Canggu traffic. Took 2
Mm.
hours to get to BIMC in this small ambulance. Still no medication. I'm in the ambulance. The nurse is just holding my arm like this. And in that journey, I was saying things like, they're going to take my arm. I just want to die now because I was thinking I'm not going to be able to have kids. I'm not going to be able
Mm.
to feed myself. And what's really interesting is that in the moments of bleeding out and possibly going to lose my right arm, I'm thinking of how does it look? That's how deep it goes for a woman in body confidence and thinking of all the things that I can't do in life to the point that I just wanted to die. But then he said, I was also saying, okay, no, I'm not going to die. Charlene, you've got this. I need to stay alive. And that kind of it just played out on that whole journey. And I remember when we got to BIMC, I could see like the bright lights. At that point, I knew I had lost, they said, half of my blood supply. Uh, I should have been dead within the 3 minutes. I've lasted 6.5 hours at this point. Like, what? How? But I genuinely, I said to him, I love you, and tell my family I love them. At that point, I thought, okay, I'm dead. And I think that's when I lost consciousness and when they started to prepare me for surgery. But they say to him, the chances are she's not going to make it. And if she does, then we're going to have to just take the arm. Uh, and of course, this is a new partner, right? He doesn't have my family's contact details.
Mm.
He reaches out to my sister on Instagram. It goes through as a message request. She doesn't receive it.
Oh, man.
And when she does receive it, because I was in surgery for 15 hours, trying to just they put 10 pins in the hand. He had to wait that whole time just to see if I was alive. And then he had to send all of these photos to my mum and dad of me with everything off to show how severe. They thought just a scooter accident. They didn't really realize the truck, my arm is in the truck, that I'm near death, and that I may have to have my right arm amputated. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. So in those moments, I hear there's like it's like these two voices that you were
Mhm.
experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like what was interesting, when they say you have a near death experience and you have like this image of your life and these memories. For me, there was a fight in me that almost was coming from something else. Sam, I don't know. I still don't know what pulled me through. After the accident, I was saying thank you for him for keeping me alive. But I was almost giving my power away because it was my mindset. It was
Mm.
the fact that my body was healthy and strong enough to stay alive, that I looked after myself, that I was strong enough and I had the resilience. But there was also something else holding me because logically, I should have been dead in 3 minutes from a severed main artery that I lost. They had to fuse into the other one. And so I believe now the accident happened exactly as it should have, the way it should have. How my arm got inside of the truck is not something you could even do on purpose, right? So, but in those moments of almost like good and evil, I don't know. I chose life clearly, and life chose me for a bigger purpose, but it didn't feel like that at the time because why would I have to possibly lose my right arm to choose life? Why would I have to go through all of this suffering? Uh, what what's the point in staying alive? There was just all of these questions, but when I was bleeding out, all I kept thinking of is my soul coming back for good or bad karma. Did I love people enough? Did I live enough for the people that I loved? And how would I live my life if I got another chance?
Mm.
That's all that kept playing around my soul. There wasn't memories of family or material things, what I achieved, success, none of that stuff. None of that came through. Um, and I think we can talk about the law of reciprocation and why I believed I was saved is because of the love that I gave out.
Mm.
It comes back around to
Mm.
save. So
Wow.
yeah, it was a fight. Um,
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for sharing because it's like such a deep experience, and the
mhm,
fact that you're open and willing to share about it
mhm,
and share your truth is like empowering other people too
mhm,
to who have maybe gone through something severe, but also something that may seem less severe. You know, it's still
Hmm. Could
they're
be
still
severe today.
working through something. And what you've shown is the way that you've been able to go back to that event
Hmm.
and rewire it and shift it in a way that's
Mm,
allowing you to sit here today
yeah.
is inspiring.
Thank you.
But yeah, off the back of that, so you were, you had that moment where it was like life or death,
Hmm.
and then the 400 angels
4,000.
or 4,000 angels, sorry, the
4,000.
4,000
Yeah.
angels.
Yeah. So part of another miracle, shall we say, um, because they had to save my life, they require payment. I had insurance, but of course, the way the system is designed, they don't want to pay out on big claims. And so there was a moment where they said, okay, we're going to fly Charlene to Bangkok in an air ambulance, but it's going to be £250,000. At that point, we thought, well, not me because I was on surgery.
Mm,
It's okay, we've got insurance. Then they call my ex partner back and say, oh, there's a clause where Charlene has to leave Bali every 30 days in order to make a new claim. It was nothing to do with the bike. It was nothing to do with the size of the bike, nothing. It was just this clause. And the hospital say, but so we need 40K. No one had that.
mm,
He didn't have that. My family, because of the time difference, also 8 hours. And thankfully, some people came through and paid the money. But then they say, okay, we've stitched her skin, and my original skin and fat was stitched back on, right? Which would have been a beautiful outcome. But because of the time period of where the insurance failed and the payment wasn't made for this to heal,
right,
they started to die.
right, because they wouldn't act on it
We
until they
didn't
had the
pay the
payment.
payment, yeah.
Right, right.
So they then have to take it all off. Literally, they stitched it back on, removed it. I am high on the highest doses of
Mm,
fentanyl, ketamine, tramadol, and many other pills. Uh, and intensive care. I remember waking up from the first surgery, and I remember my partner happy. Charlene, they've stitched your fat back on. It's okay. And I remember seeing a photo, but I'm trained in aesthetics. And I said, that's necrotic skin. It's not a bruise. I remember this. It's not a bruise. And there was a huge black thing. And I was right. Then I went under again. They've removed it all. And because the payment still wasn't made, my arm was, I don't know if you've seen the photos, just if you can imagine, just just bone, muscle, tissue, no skin, no infection, no infection from the accident. They were expecting infection, they were expecting amputation. Uh, then they wanted to stitch my arm to my stomach for 3 weeks so that the skin and the blood vessels and things would attach. But the skin graft from my leg started to take, again, another miracle. Doctors in the UK were completely baffled. One, that they were able to put pins in the hand because the x ray was so severe. Two, that I had an amazing skin graft. Three, no infection, which would have meant amputation. And that was still a possibility even after a week. And then my mum and sister arrive and they say, Charlene doesn't have pulse in these two fingers. We're going to amputate them. And I remember crying, please don't take my fingers, please don't take my
mm,
fingers. And so it created this deep fear in hospital where I was so high. I was so traumatized. Obviously, my body was in such a bad state that I would make the nurses take my pulse every, I don't know, 10 minutes, my partner said. And I would be screaming and crying in pain. And my sister said, give us a week. The reason she might not have a pulse is because I had 4 serious operations in just over a week, which alone should have killed me.
mm,
Fentanyl in my veins for 3 weeks, 24/7. I had a drug addiction after 3 days, which is normal for fentanyl, but could have killed the average healthy person. Um, and each surgery was felt like the same battle that I had on the side of the road that day because I've created this fear that if they put me to sleep, I'm dead. Because then if you can think about me in those 6 hours where I'm fighting for life and now they're putting me to sleep, I just kept
just feels
saying,
so unsafe. Yeah.
so unsafe. I'm going to die each surgery. I'm going to die. Uh, and by the last surgery, oh, I was so sure that that was death for me. You know, I couldn't even speak to my family or him. I just stayed quiet, went for the surgery, accepted that my life could be over. And I pulled through that somehow. So, yeah, it's interesting. I've told this story so many times, but today it just feels when I'm going in depth, and not just the fact that I overcame the truck, all of these other parts, surgeries, drug addictions, fear of, am I keeping my arm? How does it look? Am I going to be accepted from people? Do I need help for the rest of my life? I'm disabled now. I've woke up overnight with a label of a disabled woman after 33 years. That's hard to take. Whole identity shift that I just had to accept, you know, like my whole life, my dreams have just been ripped away. Why me?
Mm. Yeah, and like when you were going through that and you were having those moments where like the thinking like, am I going to lose my arm? And then shared that the things started to be about like, is it, correct me if I'm wrong, but like self-image started to
Yeah.
come up. Like, what how's that going to be? And then,
Am
so
I going to
what?
be of service now to people?
Yeah.
Am I going to get a husband? Am I going to have kids? I mean, I understand that we adapt, but I couldn't deny all of these thoughts that made me feel less than all of a sudden.
Mm.
Uh,
And because you do a lot of work with women empowerment,
yeah,
and so are you seeing the same pattern? You've dealt with it on like with a major experience, but
yeah,
this same like these same thoughts or self-image kind of things. And because that's one of the when we spoke, to give some context, like when we caught up and you were like, I've been through this, and now I'm willing to sort of be here and embrace what
scar.
the scars, because it's going to empower others to embrace their scars too, and
Yeah,
rather than needing to be this perfect
AI image
model.
edited. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
hang on, no, we've all got scars,
Even if they're hidden, right?
even if they're
Yeah.
hidden.
I think for me, like my whole life, and there's been a lot that's happened pre this accident. I've actually been in another near death accident where the car flipped and we ended up on the roof and I should have died. There was a truck coming on towards. And I forgot about that until this truck. And it's like, oh my God, these things have happened in my life, all of these things that were sent to break me, and I keep pushing through. My whole life, I felt ugly. I hated being on camera. I hated being on video unless I was getting the right angle, like most women do. Uh, I pretended that I agreed with people when they would call me beautiful. But just for context, from a young age, I became a champion dancer, which I went on to be a world champion. I excelled in sports. I wore all the masks of the pretty woman, the pretty girl, the funny girl. Just I was so conditioned to chase love and try and achieve love, but deep down I was seriously insecure. But I put on a good show so that people couldn't see the depth of that, right? Then I get to Bali. I had my awakening at 30 where I start to try and decondition myself away from all of the beliefs, judgments, fears that we inherit from parents or friends, society. And through my ayahuasca journey, that showed me actually that's not who I am. And I don't want to get to the end of my life not knowing who Charlene is at a
Mm.
soul level. Charlene away from the labels. I almost played this part of being a dumb blonde, that I wasn't intelligent just because I didn't get good grades in school. I just wasn't designed for that system.
Mm.
So when I got to Bali, I felt like I had done all of this shadow work. I had arrived in Bali. I'm really in my feminine. I really, for the first time, see my physical beauty after 32 years. People are commenting on my mindset, my energy. And for me, that's what it was about. I want people to see me through my eyes for who I am inside and not the physical. And then I start coaching women. I want to help the younger generation. But then I had to question, okay, if I've got to this point and I've took 3 years of self acceptance on a journey to see my worth, then God, why did you send me this relationship? Why was I hit by a truck? Ah, because this is a real reason to be insecure.
Mm,
And so for me, it was almost like the reason I had to go through the relationship was to break the cycle. And I teach people that we have to break generational trauma. We have to break the cycle so that we don't use our pain to hurt others, because that's what people do sometimes unconsciously because they're operating from like childhood trauma or wounds. And so the point of all of this is I was deeply insecure. Like I did not like how I looked at all. And so now I am like, if you seen me last month when I got back to Bali, I was hiding my scars. I was wearing bandages. People are going to look at me differently, and they do, but it's in a from a place of like awe. And now I don't ever hide the scars. I don't hide my leg. Sometimes I forget about it. But just to go back to like after the accident, I obviously go back home to Scotland to see my family. I am overdosed on drugs. I have infections all over my body. I get to the UK, they say there's nothing we can do for you because we still don't know the damage, by the way. There's pins in the hand, which means they can't do any scan. So I still don't know what's underneath the hand. Can
mm,
it be corrected? All of this uncertainty. And people say you're so lucky to keep the arm. My response is, yeah, but I don't know how that's going to look. And so if you lose a limb, you lose a limb. There's your outcome, guaranteed.
mm.
With me, it was like, will I ever use it again? Will I ever brush my hair? Will I ever be able to pick something up? So every day I'm living with this. And um, with the relationship, it got so bad that I just wanted to take my own life. And so I called my friend and I was like, it's over. I'm not beautiful anymore. It made me feel so unworthy that I didn't want to be alive. But that was all part of that was all part of the journey. Um, and I overcame that. And the way I did that is I just isolated myself for like 3 months. And I just faced it. I didn't hide from any emotions. I didn't see anyone, even family, nothing. I had no one to hold me. I was doing all of it on my own. And then I got to this point where I realized this is my purpose now. Like showing my scars, like you've just said, if that can help people to accept themselves as they are and understand that their scars, hidden or visible, are stories on their body, like that's what life is,
Mm.
And I think these scars now for me represent my life's journey. Like, it's not a straight road, it's not linear. Uh, and now to know that I'm inspiring younger girls, women, it's like, mm, I would take this every day if I can help other people to just be them without trying so hard like I did my whole life, because it left me empty and anxious and insecure, trying to achieve this perfectionism that just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And I'm not going to sit here and say it was easy, this identity shift and being labeled disabled all over the news. And um, for me, I'm enabled. I have a new opportunity to grow every day and adapt. To me, there was two paths: victimhood, which is self-destruction, staying addicted to the cycle, the blame game, not being accountable for my own emotions and my own perception, or I can suffer some more, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. And that's up to me. That I couldn't blame anyone or anything. Um, so it was it felt like there was an identity shift every day of
Mm.
my old self versus the new self. And uh, yeah, how
How
to
did you go about embracing that? Like embracing the scars?
It's so funny, like, because after the accident when I was with my ex, it had to be covered, right? And I was in hospital almost every day. They were taking bandages off. I decided to come off of all the medication. So I had severe withdrawals where they thought I had brain damage. They told me I would have epilepsy. But I knew, as someone who's into biohacking and true health, the medication was doing more damage, right? And so there was a point where I said to the doctors, I had hundreds of stitches in this arm. I had my leg, every time they took a bandage off, it would take a new layer of skin. And so I said to them, no more medication. And they said I was crazy because it's extremely painful. And so for me, I just always thought, okay, if I'm brave enough to go through all of this without medication and in extreme pain, I'm brave enough to show the outcome of that. Right. But that seemed to be more deep rooted to show the scars for people staring at me. And I had to hide it for like 3 or 4 months. I was in the UK around Christmas. I was always at home because I couldn't go outside because of the pain from the cold weather, as you know, what it's like in the
Mm,
UK. So back home, I was comfortable at home. I didn't have to be out and about. And then I made the decision to come back to Bali. And honestly, I just went back to Nirvana one day. I made sure that I didn't wear the bandage and I just faced it head on. And after a couple of days, I just felt, I just really felt this was all supposed to happen. I really felt that I am the purpose that I was saved for was to serve humanity in a way. And this is all part of it. So it just felt really easy all of a sudden
mm,
to, for me, I always want to face my fears. I've been through a lot. I've faced so many fears with the truck or before. So why would I change that uh, way of dealing with life just because of some scars?
mm.
The only way out is
S-
through.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm thinking of this the scars as like an analogy for women,
Hmm.
specifically like the women that you work with.
Yeah.
What scars do you see? Let's not speaking about the scars as in like but I mean like scars that
Hidden.
women are hiding, the mask that they're wearing. What do you see as the core scars which many women are hiding
A lot
away
of
from?
it,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of it is insecurity, feeling that like they have to look a certain way to be accepted, um, which is a lot of what we're seeing now through social media. Like I mentioned before, AI images. And I know, like, I have a younger sister at 16, and so I see this play out. For some reason, it all comes down to the way they look, that they're going to be accepted and chosen by a man, or they have to excel in some way in order to be accepted by society. But they're deep down, they're just wanting to be loved, to be seen, accepted as they are, but they just can't get past that. And it's there's a whole array of things, like childhood wounds, trauma. Maybe they don't have the tools or the knowledge to even start the process of finding out who they are beneath all of the layers that are put on us. A lot of women, I feel they're really closed off. There's a lot of things that have happened to them in life that maybe make them shut down. And for me, like the way I coach and help people is like if I can help people come back to themselves and strip away everything that makes them feel less than in this world, then they can start operating from like their heart space and what they truly desire and what they truly
Mm,
want. But we are so, so, so conditioned and indoctrinated into following the crowd that it's leaving young girls and women empty inside almost.
mm,
Um, and for me, a lot of it is about I mean, we go to Nirvana, you see people in Bali, everyone is beautiful. And that was a thought that I had. Oh, everyone's going to see this arm. I'm going to be around Bali. I can't get on my bike anymore. I envisioned myself as last year when you saw me feeling free and beautiful, and I can't even cut up my own food now.
Mm,
Like that is a huge thing to deal with. After 33 years, my independence is gone. I have to ask the restaurant to cut up my food as if I'm a child.
mm,
And that was one of the hardest parts for me of the independence. Um, Now it's different. I said before, I'm enabled. I will keep going for these challenges. I'm doing planks and I did a headstand the other day on my
amazing. Yeah.
forearms
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
being told I would never use my right arm again. But going back to women,
Women in the scars. Yeah.
I think, I believe like I teach a lot about feminine energy. And when I speak with women, they come to me with problems like business or money or the partner. And it's never about that. It's about the roots, if you like heal the roots so the tree can grow. And it's about acceptance and self love and just stripping themselves away from expectations because that's what leaves you feeling empty. And so when they see my scars and they're like, oh, it just changes something in them, even though they might have a hidden scar, it still
Mm,
gives them the confidence to work on themselves and accept. It's all about self acceptance. I really believe that happiness is accepting the parts we don't like,
mm.
whether it's physical
Or
or
unseen.
unseen. And a lot of people are walking around with trauma so deep that they don't even know where to start.
Mm,
Um, and they're so scared of even vocalizing it because, oh, if I vocalize I've got trauma, again, I'm not going to be accepted, you
mm.
know?
Something so powerful as well, where that you shared, where when you embraced it and
Hmm.
you showed your scars and you walked in after a couple of days, you was like, it's a bit weird at first, and then it was like, oh, forgot about it, and you're actually
People
like, oh,
didn't even
people are okay.
notice.
I similar for because I'm sure a lot of guys can relate with this is
Hmm.
with hair, like for men, like hair
Yeah.
loss, right? So like me and my buddies, like we'll banter about it and all that. And one of my mates, one of my best mates, he kept his hair for so long, but he would like just keep little bits,
Okay.
but really he was losing his hair, and then he just
Okay.
embraced it one day, and then now we just know him as that.
Yeah.
And I had a similar thing where it was for some reason I went in to get a haircut,
Hmm.
and I was like, I sat there and I was saying to the barber, I was like, do you reckon I'd look like with a buzz cut? And he was like, I reckon you'd look all right, mate. And I was like,
Mm.
all right, go on. And then
Try it.
we did a buzz cut. This was
Love it.
probably like 5 months ago. And I was like, oh shit, I'm actually like receding a bit here. And I never realized until, because obviously like when you got longer, like when your hair grows, it's like this.
Okay.
And then because it's this kind of triggered my story here, because it's like when it was buzz cut, initially I was like, oh shit, I'm losing my hair. And
Mm.
then when I went out and I realized that actually no one cared, they were just like, and then I started to accept it, like it was fine.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the scars, in maybe people can embrace this same thing, like whether it's hair, whether it's
Hmm.
scar, whether it's something non-physical.
Hmm.
Actually, like I think Brene Brown talks about it, where she says that
Hmm.
shame thrives in secrecy.
Mm.
So like say you're trying to keep something hidden, keep it a secret, like shame, which is
Hmm.
like the lowest of
Frequency.
emotion,
Yep.
is that's where it thrives.
Yep.
Yeah, like when you unhide it, when you unbox it, when you show,
This is
then
who I
and you
am.
share, then suddenly it's the shame just disappears, because it
Yeah.
has to. Shame like thrives when it feels like you're the only one going through something, or
Yep.
so yeah, I had that experience like in a different scenario just with hair. I know
Hmm.
it sounds so silly,
Well,
but
it doesn't sound silly. It's
actually
deep rooted
it's
for
deep
men,
rooted for men.
right?
Yeah,
Really deep rooted,
yeah.
and I love having these conversations because, for me, like you said, I just went into Nirvana, and it was actually such a beautiful moment because no one even noticed the
Mm,
arm because they're looking at me now through my eyes. They're looking at they're complimenting on my energy, my mindset, and how I'm smiling after all of this trauma that would just kill someone so easily.
mm,
For me, it was like this beautiful moment of all of the work that I've done is coming through now. And so like you say, if you sit on shame, if you're operating from guilt or all of the lower emotions and you act the way, then yeah, you're going to attract people who are going to give you pity or uh, look at you in a way that you don't like. But the way I see it, I've learned now in life, I don't judge anyone. I don't take anything personally because I used to my whole life and it hurt me. And I accept people as they are. And so that was the goal for me. And when I had that, and even now I forget about it, I also created this narrative from things that were said to me. I've had a lot of nasty things said about this, that I wouldn't find a man now because the world is so superficial and they're all too focused on looks. And I remember sitting and I said to myself, Charlene, what do you mean a man's not going to accept?
Mm,
The right man won't care. But now I'm in this power stage that I'm like attracting all of the right people. You know, people are so in awe of my story. And it just, yeah, I feel I really have left the old self. I feel God gave this to me as a gift to keep on sharing, to help people to be themselves. You know, authenticity is not something that you can sell. Authenticity is a state of being. It's you operating from your heart. And when you're operating from that, there's no image to maintain. There's no masks anymore. And I went through my whole life wearing masks. So yeah, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
mm,
Really. And I mean that 100%. I wouldn't have it any other way. Of course, there are days I'm emotional. I'm a woman where I want to feel again, or I want to pick something up properly, or I want to cut up my own food. I'm in a restaurant every day and I have to think, what can I order that I can just eat with the left hand? I now have to journal with my left hand. I have to do everything with my left hand. But I'm doing pull ups, I'm doing planks, and fitness was my whole life. So that in itself was another adaptation that I had to just accept. You know, and like I said before, I had no one to hold me through this experience. Friends, family, literally intimacy. I cried every day for 3 months, all day, all night. And I just wish someone would have touched me to tell me I'm alive.
mm,
Uh, so I literally have done. I've had support, I've had messages, I've had family helping when I was back home. But it just made me realize just how disconnected people are and how there's this shame around wanting intimacy and connection. It's the way we are designed as humans is for connection, touch, intimacy. So my goal, my mission is now for the people that have suffered the loneliness like I have to feel seen in the world, to connect. And this is why I'm so happy. And you see me around Nirvana, I chat to everyone because forget about looks, forget about how people present themselves. We are humans that are all related in love. That's the way I see it. And I want to dissolve my ego completely and just keep operating from this because this is the strongest thing that we can keep growing and using. And it goes back to the love, you know, when I was saying the reason 4,000 people paid 150K, I don't think we touched on the amount of money that was raised in 2
mm.
days, another miracle. Like, what the fuck?
It's crazy.
And I go, "Ah, it's because of the love I gave out that came back. There's no hierarchy in the spiritual world. Whoever comes first comes last." And so, yeah, if I can teach people to keep operating from their heart space, that's what comes back to you in life.
Mm. Yeah, and it's I'm so beautiful that 4,000 people in 2 days, £150,000.
Why me? There's GoFundMe's that are on there for a year. People that have got
Mm.
cancer, kids. Why me? It's almost like it was all designed perfectly, which removed me from the relationship because he completely abandoned me
After,
6 weeks after the accident. That was
what did you learn from that relationship?
that I was chasing love that I didn't receive in uh my life. That if I'm going to break generational cycles, I have to go through all of the pain from my family and maybe the way that they showed up in love. I learned some things about myself, some unhealed wounds that I had to deal with, I learned that my heart was still big enough to stay open
Mm,
even after all of this. Things like this really close people off. That's not my goal in life. I feel like my heart's got bigger.
mm.
And people can almost use trauma for me as an excuse sometimes to go down the self destructive path or to blame things. I learned from that I have to take full accountability for my life. I don't blame anyone, anything. I don't even blame myself. I'm just happy for the lessons because for me, I want to keep learning. I want to keep having lessons come to me. Maybe not a truck again,
Yeah,
but,
yeah, yeah. Let's, yeah,
but like for me, I want to have my dream partnership. I want to have all of this. But I had to go through all of that. I had to go
Mm,
through the abuse. I just had to for me to be here smiling.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And like the way that you show up and the energy and
mm,
you're radiating, so
yeah.
it's amazing. If you don't mind going there, what part of you do you think attracted that relationship?
Yeah, it's interesting. My relationship before 7 years, great guy. We were engaged. I got to Bali and I actually said to God, I wanna I have a certain way of thinking when it comes to if I have kids in a partnership. But first I have to heal anything that's within me. And he was a narcissist and I was a fixer looking for a project because I thought I had healed a lot of things through ayahuasca. Um, and then I fell into that relationship. I never understood narcissism. I actually called a friend and I broke down and I apologized to her. I've told you all these years to just leave. I get it now. It's a trauma bond. And if we think of trauma bonds, it's like a dopamine, serotonin, cortisol. It's an actual cycle, the same way a drug addict has, right?
Mm.
I just seen all of this pain in this person and I wanted to fix. I can help. I can help. And we can. We can plant seeds and we can inspire people. And I learned a lot of lessons at the start of the relationship, but I was all of a sudden in this chemical bond where I didn't have the strength to leave. I was manipulated, gaslighted, all things that's never happened to me. So it was all new. But it's okay. He's been in pain and I wanna help.
So do you think it was like the people pleaser side, like the fixer side, that kind of attracted that to show you
Yeah, I
the
think so. I
mm,
think so. Like can honestly say I'm a good person. I've always treated my partners well. I've never been in an emotionally abusive
yeah,
relationship,
yeah.
but I started mirroring back the abuse from him. So I started thinking, oh, maybe I'm evil. Maybe
Mm,
I'm a narcissist.
mm,
Maybe it's all me. And my friend would call me most days to remind me that's not who I am. I don't come from that. And I was just chasing love
yeah.
from my parents that because of the way they lived, my dad worked a lot. He didn't have the time to have the fun times, the love that I needed. And remember, if we go back to the reason I became a world champion dancer, wasn't for me. It was because I received love when I was the best.
Mm,
So it was conditioned love, right? So I'm always chasing that. And when I feel like I'm at my worst, no one wants me, which is why I would hide away. I had emotional eating. Then I had health anxiety. I've suffered a lot of things. But with him, yeah, I healed some stuff, but it wasn't to the extent of what I had to go through. The way he treated me, and after the accident, apparently from the first surgery, I woke up and said, God, thank you for removing me from this man. I think there's a whole thing between good and evil, darkness inside of us that needs to come to light so that we can heal. I don't know if I needed to experience it to that extent.
mm,
I had to look at myself. Why am I mirroring back? Uh, and I had to forgive myself also. And I forgave him for
mm.
everything that he did. Yeah.
What message would you share to someone who is in a similar situation?
That first of all, it's okay. There should be no shame. We always have a friend that leaves their partner and goes back and leaves and goes back. And it's because it's it affects the brain. And so I started studying neuroscience on how you're in fight or flight mode. you're confused all the time. It literally changes the brain. And actually, the science says that it's harder to leave a toxic relationship than it is to to come off of drugs, right?
Mm.
So I've had the relationship, then I've had the accident, which caused severe trauma to my brain. Then I've created a stronger chemical bond with this man because he was at the accident, so he must understand.
Mm.
So I left all of my family, I cut them all out again for this person who I thought loved me, that was throwing me on the streets and things like that. Um, so what I want to say is, first of all, is it's okay. There should be no shame around this. But if I'm going to be completely honest, then we have to start taking accountability for uh, the reasons that we stay is not self love. It's because we are operating from a wounded version of us and to seek help, and that you can get out of the cycle, you can break the cycle, but it requires accountability. I had to face myself and say, why am I not leaving? Why can't I leave? It was never about him. I think it's always about us. Um, but of course, there are many different layers to this, right? There are people in seriously abusive relationships where
Mm.
they can't leave. There's all these different reasons why, uh, but it's possible. And it's about putting yourself first. Please don't spend your life in toxic relationships, whether that be with a partner or friendships, whatever it is. You have to accept where you're at and then work towards the solution to leave, because it's not love.
Mm.
It's trauma, and it's okay. But it's important that you start the process to leave whatever the situation is that you're in.
Mm. And
Yeah.
heal and forgive.
Forget. You know, it's interesting. I was going through with a narcissistic relationship. They say you go through the 5 stages of grief, like a normal relationship, but with a narcissistic relationship, it's even worse because everything is heightened and there's so much. I had so much anger towards this person,
Mm.
but a lot of that anger was towards myself. I just didn't want to admit it. Um, then I was going through. I don't forgive you. Do I forgive you? Do I forgive myself? And honestly, now in this moment, I don't know if forgiveness completely sets you free. I don't know if I even have to forgive. For me, it just is. It happened. I'm okay. I'm healing because I've taken ownership of myself. I'm not blaming him. I did blame him for a long time, but where does that get you?
Mm.
It's still external. Like you're still not accepting then if you're blaming. Uh, so that's interesting the way I've just thought about that now,
Mm.
about forgiveness. Yeah.
It is interesting. And I relate as well from so I went to a Tony Robbins event in
Mm,
December,
yeah.
and I knew moving into that event that my business was in a good place, health was in a good place, but the thing that was missing was relationship. And I knew it was something I wanted to draw in,
Mhm.
but there was some stuff that I was unaware of under the surface.
Okay.
And like one of the big things, like there's many of things that he did during the day, and that I personally did to work through some stuff. But like one of the big things was a blame exercise, and it was like he did a whole thing on blaming effectively.
Mhm.
So
Oh, okay.
it's like if you're gonna blame for all the things that someone's done, or like the what they've done to your life, and da da da, like also blame, like almost like our mind only remembers like small parts. So it's
Mhm.
like also blame for all the other bits, like the gifts, the gratitude, the other side, like all of the
Mm.
things that they've drawn into your life as well, the lessons,
Yep.
even like the good times as well that you even have with someone like that. And I did that, and with because like off the back of my like previous relationships I've had, like I'm so grateful for them, but there's still stuff that you hold on to, right?
Mhm.
Because in relationships, naturally, like it's the most intimate you are with someone, so
Yep.
they see like all sides of you. You see
Mhm.
all sides of them, and that with two people is always going to bring stuff up, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so he did a blame exercise there, and it was kind of like he wrote a letter, I actually made a phone call and just almost like blamed effectively, like actually took responsibility for my side and actually for the unconscious pain that I had caused. Like, that I
Beautiful.
didn't even realize that until
Had.
that I had actually created in that.
Yep.
And it was almost like all these layers, like the onion started to unpeel. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, like actually, like, that me doing this behavior triggered this behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So you then felt unsafe here, which then triggered that behavior.
Yep.
And then like that was mirrored back at me. And then I was frustrated at her because she was like feeling unsafe and then thinking that I was getting up
Mm-hmm.
to X, Y, and Z. But actually, like it was all stemmed from the fact that I hadn't created safety. I hadn't created a solid
Yeah.
foundation. So I was like,
Yep.
I'm sorry for that. That's
Wow.
painful for her to experience and to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like this release because it was like I didn't even know that I was wearing this big weight belt
Mm.
that I kind of just, once I had that realization and had accepted, I just took off.
I love
And
this.
then this like opened up so much space
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for something new. And then when I came back to Bali, that's when I met
Met
Bonnie.
Bunny.
And it's just been like, and
This is
she's like
beautiful.
ticks all the boxes from like
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I've got very clear on exactly what I was like a non-negotiable. Like for
Mm-hmm.
me, the pattern of leaving and coming back, leaving, like that was like
Yep.
non-negotiable. Like that's not
Yep.
a thing. So
Yep.
like being able to have the clarity to lay that out early on
Mm-hmm.
is like that's just, if you leave, like that's it. So
And
if
that's
I
it.
leave, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's like it gave all of those lessons of like the foundation is the most important thing.
100%.
And then from that, then we met and it's just gone like so like it just feels so blessed. She's amazing. She's perfect.
She is. She's amazing. She's
Yeah.
amazing. She's so amazing. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing, right? You've just said that you've come out of that. So you've broken a cycle there that could have played out so many times that it's so easy for people to play out. The piece is communication, right?
Mm,
And it's like the requirements that you have versus, let's say, standards. I now say requirements. These are my requirements for me to be in a relationship, for me to feel safe. And I also apologize to him around the way I was mirroring back to him. Yeah, I was
mm.
unsafe. Yeah, I was in survival mode, but I still can't blame him for the way I showed up. And I think that's really beautiful, but that's the piece, that's the part where most people struggle with or fail because the brain wants to stay in the familiar. It seeks out the toxicity in someone else because, well, one, the awareness isn't there, but it's just from an unhealed wound, right? It's like I keep talking about the tree analogy, heal the root so that the tree can grow. But
Mm,
most people plant seeds in poison soil, right? And then they
mm.
wonder why it's not quite getting through the surface. And so, yeah, I'm so happy for you that you've broke through, especially with our conversations last year and
Before,
seeing the
yeah.
difference in you and your energy and how you're showing up and how you're growing.
Mm,
um, is beautiful, especially for men as well. Like, I love working with men, and it's something I'm going to open the doors with because I feel like I create this space. And I have this dream of bringing men and women back together again.
so important.
It's so important, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone's in competition, and I'm like, we need each other. Um,
I agree. It's like another one of the things. It's like I view it as like a football team. Like football teams, you have like two sides, and then if you
yeah.
go to a football match, there's like one side who are
Yes.
like, "Yeah, you fucking like
Mhm.
swearing at the other." It's like there's something in society that creates this division between men and women,
And
which is
it's,
we're
yeah,
all like,
it makes no
there's beauty in
sense.
like without men there wouldn't be women, without women there wouldn't be like we need one
Each
another.
other.
And the message of like men need men,
Hmm.
women need women.
We need each other.
Also, women need men and men need women. Like it's
This is
yeah,
my whole thing. Like, we are designed differently, 100%, but we're equal in worth. And when you bring each of the gifts that we have together in harmony and it's polarized and the energies balance, that's how we create the new earth that we want. Or also balancing our own masculine and feminine. That's so
mm,
important within ourselves in order to attract. But the point is, we need each other. I want to trust men. Like, I trust men and I respect men so much, but I don't know. I'm trying to see, is there an awakening where men are coming back to healthy masculinity and women coming back to healthy uh feminine energy. I also see the toxic sides on both. But yeah, if we could cultivate that and we could learn to respect each other, understand each other, like the world would be such a safer place. But of course, that comes through generations and how we're brought up. So, but it's food for thought, to stop fighting against each other and accept each other.
Mm. Yeah, and it's just because we we see each other in like you see yourself in others,
Mm,
like a mirror, but then also just physiologically and the way that men and women are set up. I think from a man's perspective, like to really understand like the depth of like women,
hmm
it goes so deep because we're just physiologically so different. Like every month, you have your
Every
cycles,
week, by the way,
yeah,
we
it's just
change, like mentally, physically. I don't think there's such a thing as an emotionally stable woman. I
mm,
think we can understand and observe our emotions and make sure that we don't go on a self destructive path. But that's, for me, the wounded feminine, like a younger girl. But also with men, though, like men go so deep. And as women, we tend not to think about that. You're supposed to be a man, you're not supposed to have emotions, be my safe space. But men also need the safe space in women. And so for me, I read men's books, right? I want to understand how you guys think. I want to respect you and feel safe. But then there's all these conditions on you guys as well. Like not only have you to be a man, you've got to be your safe space, you've got to provide value, you've got to earn certain amount of money. Can you imagine a man put all of those conditions on a woman? Like it would just be an uproar. So for me, it's like, hey, we can try and understand each other at a deeper level, have the communication and the transparency so that we can bring our gifts together. Um, and you guys think logically, then emotionally. We are emotionally, which is why we change our mind every hour,
mm.
versus you guys are just trying to solve a problem. And sometimes that just hits off of each other, right? And
And
like you
this
said,
training is
yeah,
it is training for
it
sure.
literally
Because
is.
like sometimes like we're watching a movie, like we remember watching a movie, and then suddenly like at the end of the movie, like we were watching Soul.
Mm.
You watch Soul, the Pixar movie? Such
SOL?
such
Soul?
a, such a good
No?
movie. If you haven't watched it, like I
Okay,
highly
okay, okay.
recommend it. It's so good. It's like Pixar, like it's a
Mm,
kids movie, but
okay.
also with one of those kids movies with loads of in-depth
Like
meanings behind it.
Moana or Spirit, like yeah, I get
Exactly.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Soul is similar to that.
Okay.
Amazing. But anyway, it gets to the end. I won't tell the story because it'll ruin it. But everything works out great. Like
Yeah.
at the end, like it's good, right?
Yeah.
It's about as good as it. And then next minute, like Bonnie's just in tears, crying. Logically, I'm thinking, hang on, like it's all worked out well.
Yeah, so why are you crying?
She burst into tears and she was like, I thought he was gonna die. I thought he was gonna die. And I was thinking, like, and then I was like, right, this is the training, right? Just
This is the training.
be present.
Yeah,
Like
just
you
hug
don't need to
her.
fix it.
Yeah,
Like just
yeah.
be present.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think most men that I speak to, like, they try and fix. And I say to them, because I coach in this now, we don't want a solution. We just want to be seen and heard and held in the moment. Our mood is going to change because it's
Mm,
about safety for a woman. If you think about, there's a deep rooted fear in our lineage for the way women were treated, throughout the generations. And we still carry that. And it's the same with men. You guys have a deep fear of not bringing enough value to the world, so you don't feel enough. It's kind of a similar things. And if we can learn to understand that, then relationships get better. And yeah, like you say, I love that. It's a training ground.
mm,
And why wouldn't you want to keep learning about your partner and the way they think? Because if you don't want to do that, it means you don't want to stay
yeah.
in something. And love
Yeah.
sometimes is staying in it to grow and to get better. So
Mm. Yeah, so
yeah.
true. Because I from my mind, it then in like a situation like that, it's like, right, she's upset, right? Like the natural tendency we just want to solve and fix.
Yeah.
So it's actually like almost trying to rewire that in those
Mm-hmm.
moments to be like, actually, no, just needs presence and
Mm-hmm.
emotional
Yeah.
safety rather than like actually trying to fix like, oh, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Let's try and make this better.
Yeah. And that's the thing, I know men want peace. You
Mm,
guys just want peace, right? You want respect. But the way I see it is men set the tone in a relationship. women create the atmosphere. You know, we're like the flower, we bloom in the presence and inspire you in a way. But when men don't create the safety, they don't get peace. And
Mm,
so, you know, it's all about the container and understanding and stepping back and observing versus two unhealed children fighting against each other. Because sometimes that's the way I used to see it with me and my ex. We are just children lashing out, trying to be seen and heard. We're not listening to each other. We both deep down just want love, but we just can't get there for some reason.
mm,
And so that's the way that I see it. Like when if Bonnie cries again, or if you're upset, it's your inner child just trying to be seen and
yeah.
heard. And I think that's just a beautiful way to accept someone. Now when I see, you know, death taught me the importance of being in life. It taught me that everyone's running from something or towards something, which for me is a dangerous place to be because it can all be taken away, right? And just being in that moment with a person to help heal their nervous system is a gift, you know, and we're missing out on all these gifts by running away from hard things and relationships and even hard times in life as well.
Mm.
So, training ground.
Yeah, I love the training ground. Like
Yeah.
we're just training. There's,
Yeah.
and
Just
life is always
growing.
presenting the opportunities to train, right?
Yeah. I
Like
actually
sometimes bigger
welcome,
than others. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I just welcome pain now. Like, pain is the greatest teacher. If you're triggered, it's an opportunity for you to learn something about yourself so that you can show up better. It's not about the other person. That's what I
Mm,
learned. It's always about us,
mm,
you know?
mm. So what's the next phase looking like for you? Now that I still and just get my head around the fact that this was so
8 months
recent,
ago, I know. I
so
know.
recent,
And
you
people
know?
say to me, "You're crazy for going back to Bali. Why would you go back to the place where you lost everything?" But when I got back here, my Airbnb looked directly onto where the accident happened, which is not a view that
Wow.
you can get in Bali. So
Mm,
I'm supposed to be here. I'm okay around trucks. I would drive a bike. Right? There's no fear in me at all. Nothing. I still have a big heart and I'm sensitive, but I feel like there's nothing that can touch me. But I also realized after speaking to some people that I think because I've achieved so much and I have this idea of getting to the top of the volcano in a year, I forgot almost how traumatic it was. Um, that now I just want to slow down a little bit. I know doors are open for me. I'm not going to chase. I made a promise to myself that I won't attach to outcomes in life and I won't chase anymore. And just surrendering to God's plan because clearly I was saved for, I think, something bigger. I don't know if I quite understand what that is yet, but it feels like is to share my story and to keep guiding and to keep helping and keep inspiring people to come back
mm,
to themselves. So right now, you know, I left my corporate job. I lost everything from the accident. And now I'm just in a state of being, receiving, trusting that God saved me, yeah, for a reason. And I'm
mm.
so excited to find out what that is, you know, its entirety of that.
I mean, what you're embodying now, you know, sharing this message for women, but also
Hmm.
men, you know,
Also, man.
where there's scars, physical, non-physical.
Hmm.
So we all have them,
We do, yeah.
and being able to embrace them and wear them and actually like show them
Hmm. Like a
is healing in
superhero.
itself, right?
Yeah.
And the way that you're showing up is embodying that and is giving others that reason and
Yeah.
to be able to actually embody that in themselves, you know, even from our conversation, it's like I'm then thinking, right, what scars actually am I hiding, you know, that
Mm.
I can now just embrace and be a little bit more whole. Because rather
Yeah.
than hiding them, it's like, actually, no, this is part of me.
Yeah.
And then, like with the hair or like with the scar, it's
Yeah.
like after a couple of days,
No one
no one
cares.
else cares.
This is the
No
thing.
one
What
cares.
I realized when I'm dying, no one cares, you know? Like, I also went through this where I was on the news. I've got hundreds of thousands of people on my Instagram, people messaging me, prayers. Then all of a sudden, that kind of stops, right? And it's like, I had to make sure that I wasn't then trying to live up to this strong image that everyone is praising me for. And so it was like, what does being strong mean to me? It means being vulnerable. It means sharing all of the pain and not hiding anything about me so that I can help others. And this is the point of, if you can share your pain and your scars without shame, without thinking that you're even taking up someone's time because you've got pain to share. Like, especially for men, my greatest thing is watching a man transform, because it's when men transform and come out of their shadows, or what I teach people is to make friends with their shadows. That's when the masculinity comes back. That's when they can start leading. That's when we can start feeling safe as women, right? And so now you're saying to me, what scars can I show? And that's like another level of growth for you, where you're going to keep stepping up into being more of the man that you want to be. And I believe that we always change. It's the one thing that's constant in life. There's different versions of us throughout life. And there'll be setbacks, and there'll be volcanoes to climb and ditches to go down. But that's life. And I've accepted I'm going to get hurt in life. And I've reframed that to think that's an opportunity. People run from pain. I'm like, I'm head on, any pain that comes to me, great, I'm going to learn. And that's how I get to be the woman that I want to be. That's how I serve even better in this world, but also from your heart space. Like I said, I want to dissolve my ego to reach higher consciousness, to help create even a generation of children that don't have to get to the age 30 and start trying to heal their childhood trauma, So, yeah, the scars have to be on show. Like, they tell a story. Could you imagine a life without scars? How boring would we all be? We would all be the same. You know?
Yeah, it'd just be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I was born and everything was great, and
And
then I
that was
died.
it. This is my name. This is my job. This is what I do.
Yeah.
It's like,
Some of these
no.
scars that are so like they can be small, they can be big. Some of them are hidden as well, right? Where it's like unpeeling the layers of the onion. Where it's like actually that question, like, what scars am I hiding?
Can I ask you?
Sometimes, what scars I'm hiding? Sure, like right now, I think like when you go on any journey, so like starting a podcast or moving into like say coaching space, from what I've always done, like the scars that are there is like feeling like there's a need to like get things exceptional and make things perfect and like live up to like this super high standard. And I think that scar there is just embracing the fact that it's all a fucking illusion.
Yep.
Like to try and get something perfect or meet such a high standard. And then it's like, well, where does that scar come from? It's like driven from not enoughness, driven from a place of I need to prove myself through accomplishments and achievements. And so the scar there, just being okay with that and sitting with it, because I love creating and I feel lit up and passionate about what I'm doing. But it's like when I'm catching myself moving into, am I doing this from a place of like love from here, or is it from a place of wanting to be seen and validated in a way where I look successful or I look in a certain light? So I suppose like the scar there would just be like you shared, moving back into my heart, accepting that actually like the accomplishments are just fucking accomplishments and they mean nothing. And like on Neppy, when this sat there and Bonnie and myself just laid on the sofa, relaxing in peace, I had those moments where I'm like, this is all I need.
And that's an accomplishment. That's success, when you're sharing that moment, when you're being in the moment. So what I want to ask you is, when you say, I'm trying to reach perfectionism and achievements, is that because you feel in competition with other men? Is that because you guys are conditioned to believe that you only become a man when you provide value to the world? But why should that value be in terms of money or a perfect podcast? Why can't it be just you, who you are in this version now, without the need for the external validation. And I know that there is a competition between men. I know that most men that I speak to still don't feel enough. Even I've spoke to millionaires, billionaires, they still don't feel enough. And for me, like, that goes so deep
Mm,
that you guys suffer. And then if you talk about it, oh, you're not a man, you know? And
mm,
so I just want to say thank you for sharing and being honest about that. I think it's beautiful. I think this is what we need when we just spoke about men being vulnerable and being open, because then you set yourself free and you can grow from that,
mm.
you know?
And it's like you said, it's deep rooted, and I think
Mhm.
it's inside. And I also play this almost like this internal game where it's like I play like, right, driven, is it like driven from not enoughness? But then I'm like, I also like love creation and like growing and
Mhm.
thriving. And then it's like catching yourself, like, is this because I'm looking to meet like a certain picture that I'm looking to
Yep.
meet? So then others look at me and go, hey, like, look, or
I
is it
did it.
actually because it's like from a
What
heart
you
and it's like
want.
passion and purpose and drive and coming
Yeah.
from a place of actually like, I'm here for an experience as well and a
Mhm.
creation. And I think that's kind of a dance and a game
I'm in the
between the
same
two.
dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because death taught me the importance of being, but life has taught me, okay, what new heights can I reach? Can I get to the
Mm,
top of the volcano? Can I make £1 million? Like, what new heights can I reach? But I always have to bring myself back to the fact that I basically died, and being present every day in gratitude for what I already have. For me, the past and the future's already happened simultaneously.
mm,
Sometimes I think we're just in a video game, we're just playing the part. And the true meaning of life is being every day. And if it takes you 6 months longer to create versus these goals that you're trying to hit, I think that's where the magic is. I think that's where you create bigger, when you start to care less, is when it actually starts to grow the way you want it to versus the image in our head. Because as I know, it can be taken away in a second.
mm.
So,
And I think that is the message. It's like for me, it's like these creations and accomplishments and actually like, creating value in the world and feeling purposeful and on mission and drive. It's like all of that is important, but it's just a game. And at some
mhm,
point the game is up and it's
mhm.
done. And also coming from a place that actually when it is done, no one else cares what you've accomplished, how much money you've made, what you've done. And so as long as you're enjoying that process and it's actually like purposeful and mission
Lights you
driven,
up.
but then also remembering what is important. But
Mhm.
then from a man's perspective, it's like for me, like making sure that the people that I love are looked after and
Safe.
cared for and safe, and there's a solid
Love that.
foundation for them. Like I feel that that's a responsibility for myself and
Huge
my role.
responsibility.
So it's like just ensuring that that foundation is there and strong,
Mhm.
so that like the people I love and care about are also looked after
Yep.
is an important role that I
Of course.
perceive.
Yeah.
So it's like that balance between making sure that foundation is there, but then not getting lost and swept away in that
Mhm.
game. I'm just kind of remembering actually like this
The
is
importance of
what's
being.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it depends on how you term success, right? And we've been conditioned to feel like success is the fancy house or the car or the perfect looking relationship. But actually, when you take a step back and when I speak to a lot of people, they're not happy. They're not happy. And so, yeah, I agree that the foundations are important. You, as a man, makes you feel you're providing the value. But you also need the same love and safety and to be held in a way that makes you feel like a man. Because I think a lot of women, we don't understand that. We just expect, expect, expect. Puts this pressure on you, then you're trying to create, but you can't create fully because you've got this, like you said, it's like a dance between the two. And so I think it just depends on how you term what success is. For me now, it's not about what I achieved financially or how much money my partner makes. It's, am I living in the moments that matter the most? When I look back on my life, I want to feel like there's been something I've been happy and enjoyed every single day now, versus wasting time or working 12 hours a day. For what?
Mm,
For what? You know?
mm.
But again, that's just my
Yeah, for sure.
perception now. I could happily go to the jungle and stay in a cabin and be by the water for the rest of my life because I know the importance of just sitting in nature the way we were designed to live, by the way, and not in cities, that's enough for me. That's enough for me.
It's beautiful.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
no,
sharing
thank
more
you.
conversation.
Thank
And
you, I know.
we've got, before we close out, we'll do the vault. So
Okay.
as part of the show,
Okay,
yeah, we'll
beautiful.
have the vault where there's 10 mystery messages that are
Okay.
left in there, and then each guest leaves a message for a future guest.
Okay.
So it may be the next guest, or it may be 20 episodes time that your message is revealed. And I believe like it will come at the
As it
right time for
should.
them.
Yeah, I loved it. Oh my God. You are a miracle. Like literally, this is what people say to me. Because I never used to agree that I was a miracle. I would say I am a miracle. Now, when I think back of everything I've been through, I am. And this starts off with you are a miracle with God energy within. You are capable of anything, and I encourage you to seek and then become the most incredible version of yourself. Rise and shine, Anne. What?
Wow. Wow.
And so I said before I lifted that out, okay, just give me a sign and what I need to hear. And yeah, thank you, Anne. Wow.
Very on point.
Yeah.
Wow.
Insane. You are a miracle. We are all miracles. This is the thing, when people say to me, life is not good, it's a miracle that we are breathing, that we are alive, that we get a new opportunity every single day to create our life, to choose happiness. So I just want to say that for anyone that's listening to the podcast, we are all miracles. Life is a miracle. And that is crazy.
Well, it is a miracle. You are a miracle. The fact that that what happened, with there could have been centimeters away from.
Yeah.
There's so many
It
things on that journey.
was.
Centimeters away. The fact that the artery and then it's like got through, and the drugs, like all of it.
And
it's
the
a
UK
miracle.
doctor said 3 of them, we would have taken the arm straight away. So it was a miracle that I was in Bali and it happened. Could have been a completely different outcome. So yeah.
And I love the fact that you are like, everyone's a miracle.
Everyone is. We all are. Breathing,
incredible.
life. Yeah, miracles happen. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on.
No,
It's
thank
been,
you.
Yeah, amazing conversation, and just your honesty and vulnerability, depth, the way that you've gone through what you've gone through, yet you've allowed yourself to overcome all of those, darker times and embrace it all and show your scars, and actually allow others to embrace their scars, whatever they may be. Like that's like the ripple effect that's going to have. That's
success, right?
That's success. Yeah.
See? Yeah. No, thank you so much for creating this and also creating the safe space for me to allow myself to speak in that way. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been a miracle.
It's been a miracle. On that note, it's been a miracle. You are a miracle. Let's go.